to a brand new episode of Picks with Rich. I am Rant'N Rich, and as always, I want to thank you for checking out the show today. UFC 241 is going down this Saturday, August 17th, 2019 at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. It's going to be headlined by heavyweights Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. Should be a great fight. Also, don't forget about the co-main event. We have Nate Diaz getting back into the octagon after a long hiatus. He's going to be taking on Anthony Showtime Pettis. Can't wait for that fight as well. Okay, so before we get into UFC 241, I do want to go back a little bit and recap on the last episode of Picks with Rich. UFC 240, I actually broke even. I didn't lose any money, which is somewhat of a good thing, but I didn't gain any money either, which is somewhat of a bad thing. So I was pretty neutral that night. I did end up parlaying them. I gave you guys two fighters. I can't recall who the first fighter was, but he won. And then the second fighter was Oliver Aubin-Mercier, and he actually lost. He disappointed me. I've always been a big fan of Mercier. I thought he was going to climb through the rankings and be the man, but I guess he came up short again. Fourth loss in a row, so I'm not sure what the UFC plans on doing with him. I don't know his contract. I don't know how many more fights he has on it. If that was the last one, I'd assume that they want to probably get rid of him. But I will say it was a good learning experience because I've been burned by Mercier quite a few times, and that will be the last time. So if I do see his name on a card again, I'm going to bet on anybody is probably his opponent because I have a bitterness towards Mercier, and I really don't think he can hang unless it's of a much lower level. So unfortunately, I ended up flat even, neutral. I didn't lose any money. I guess that's a good thing. But again, I'm here to give you the best picks possible so we can all win some money. Now, with that being said, the last two events that were fight nights, I usually tend not to do those ones. I did hit. I won on both events, 4 fighters in total. I took two fighter parlays and I hit on both of them. So the last two events have been pretty good. I hope that luck trickles on to UFC 241. I have 5 fighters in total, and I may throw a little parlay in there for you guys. Okay, so all in all, this event looks pretty good. Obviously, the bread and butter is in the main card, the pay-per-view card. Of course, that's why you're paying for it. But there are some good potential fight of the nights in there, some good names peppered in, some exciting fights. Starting off with the early prelims, those are going to be on Fight Pass, and then we're going to move on to the prelims on ESPN. Of course, the main card, the pay-per-view card. I'm going to run off all the names. I'm going to run off all the odds. And if I see a fight that I like, a fight that I've researched and done my homework, I'm going to give you the rundown on that, and we'll be good to go. So let's get started. Okay, so starting off with the very first fight of the night on the early prelims. Again, this is on Fight Pass. If you don't have Fight Pass, get it. And if you do have Fight Pass, great, because you'll be able to watch. So starting off, Sabino Mazal is taking on Shauna Dobson. Mazal is the very, very, very slight underdog at a plus 100 or an even, and Dobson is the minus 120 favorite. It's a pretty much even fight. I did look up these women, and I'm excited to watch this fight go down, but I'm not confident enough in either one, so I'm going to stay clear. I'm going to stay away from this altogether. Second fight of the night, we have Brandon Davis taking on Jung Ho Kang. Davis is the underdog at a plus 155, and Kang is the favorite at a minus 175. If I had to pick on this one, I'd probably go with Kang. I'm not going to risk it for minus 175 because I'm going to have to put up almost $200 to make 100, but I will be excited to watch for sure. Okay, third fight of the night and last fight on the early prelims, we have Hana Ciphers versus Jodi Esquibel. Ciphers coming in as the favorite at a minus 275, which is somewhat of a hefty favorite. Esquibel is coming in as the underdog at a plus 235, so if you're a big Esquibel fan, definitely jump on this. I think the odds should be a little closer. I don't really see anybody getting completely dominated like that, but I am definitely going to stay away from this fight. I don't like Esquibel nearly as much to even risk 100 to make 235, and then Ciphers, of course, is a little ridiculous at a minus 275. Whether she wins or not, for me, it's all about confidence, and I have to have all the confidence in the world in a fighter to spend that much just to make $100. So I'm going to stay completely away from the early prelims. Let's get into the regular prelims on ESPN. Okay, so first fight of the prelims, this is the fourth fight of the night. We have Kenney versus Manny Bermudez. Kenney's coming in as the underdog at a plus 120, and Bermudez is the favorite at a minus 140. Very close fight. Could be a little closer. I do like Bermudez in this fight, so I'm going to break down the two fighters, and I'm going to tell you why I like Bermudez, but I'm actually, because it's a little higher than I'd like to go, a minus 140. It's on the cusp. I'd say about a minus 150, 160 would be something that I'd like to parlay just so I don't have to risk so much and I'm still going to get something back if they win. So I'll get into the whole parlay and how I'm going to do that. But first, let me break down Casey Kenney and Manny Bermudez. Okay, so let's start out with Casey Kenney. He is 8-1-1 in his professional career, 1-0 in the UFC. He's 28 years old from Arizona, and he has a 68-inch reach, so not a big wingspan, but he uses it very well. He's coming out of LFA. He's 4 wins in a row, including Ray Borg. His first fight in the UFC was back in March, and he beat him. And Ray Borg's been around for a long time, veteran guy. So that's got to be something to be said about Kenney. He's really solid. He likes to grind down his opponents, a lot of energy. So I have a feeling he's going to try to do that with Bermudez. He does not have great takedown defense, and I'm going to get into Bermudez in a second, but he might want to sharpen up on that if he hadn't already in the past. I'm thinking that he probably did in this training camp. So moving on to Manny Bermudez, he is 14-0 in his professional career, 3-0 in the UFC. He's 25 years old, and ironically, he's from Massachusetts too. He's got a 71.5-inch reach, so a small advantage over Kenney. I don't think he's really going to have to use that though, honestly. He's got so many submission wins. This guy is a beast on the mat, and ironically, he's a purple belt. A lot of people think he's a black belt. He started training jiu-jitsu at a very young age, and again, the proof is in the pudding. He's had fights in the UFC, and a lot of his wins overall have been on the mat, have been submission wins. So I'm curious to see if he's going to take it there. I'm thinking he may, in the first round, go punch for punch, kind of wear Kenney down, take his confidence away from him, and then at a certain point, try to take him down. Again, Kenney doesn't have good takedown defense, so that's an advantage for Bermudez. And as soon as he's down, I think he's going to submit him. So I'm going to take Manny Bermudez, and I think he's going to win by submission. And I'm not going to take him 140 to make 100 again. I'm going to mix him with a parlay, which I'm going to get to in just a few minutes. Okay, so let's go back to the odds. We're at the prelims. Remember, this is the 5th fight of the night. We have Christos Giagos versus Drakkar Klose. Giagos is the underdog at a plus 170, and Klose is the favorite at a minus 200. I do like Klose usually, but at a minus 200, I'm good. Moving on to the 6th fight of the night, we have Corey Sandhagen versus Rafael Assunção. Sandhagen's coming in as the favorite at a minus 185, and Assunção is the underdog at a plus 160. And yes, I do like a fighter in this one. This fighter is actually going to parlay with the last fighter I was talking about, Manny Bermudez. So let me get into the breakdown first, and then I'll tell you exactly how I'm going to bet this one. So starting off with veteran Rafael Assunção, he is 27-6 in his professional career, 11-3 in the UFC, 27 fights deep and only lost 6. That is definitely something to say. He is getting a little bit up there. He is 37 years old. He's got a 66.5-inch reach. He's coming off of a submission loss to Marlon Moraes. Now, he beat Moraes the first time. I believe that was Moraes' first or second fight in the UFC, but he did turn it around. Moraes is on another level right now, and he beat Assunção on their last outing. So before that, though, he did have 4 fights in a row. He's a little sluggish when he gets tired. He gets a little sluggish. His hands start to drop a little bit. So need to watch out for that. I don't know if he's gonna really try to take this down to the mat, or if he's gonna stand up old school like he's done a lot in the past and try to bang with him. But like I said, he is an all-around great fighter. Been around for a long time, so that experience may be something for Sandhagen. So moving on to Corey Sandhagen, he is 11-1 in his professional career. He is 4-0 in the UFC, so that's great. 4 fights in a row in the UFC, in the big times. Can't say anything better than that. He's 27 years old, and he's fighting out of Colorado, 70-inch reach, so he does definitely beat Assunção on that reach and that size. He does have the advantage on that. And since he's been in the UFC, he's beaten some big names in the division. He's a very, very well-rounded fighter. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of skill. He's a hard hitter, too. Can't forget about that hitting power for someone his size. Again, with the reach advantage, the high output, the energy, the stamina, I actually am going to take Sandhagen. I think he's going to win by decision. Now, normally it'd be $185 to make 100. I'm going to parlay him with Bermudez. So again, Bermudez, I have him winning by submission. Normally it would have been 140 to make 100. And Sandhagen, again, 185 to make 100. Now that I'm parlaying them, it's going to be about 100 to make 160. Now, again, with the 2 favorites, normally you'd have to put up a lot more, but because I'm parlaying them, I'm going to be getting more back. Now, that's going to vary a little bit. I know odds are going to change when you put it in. When I did this show early in the week. Odds fluctuate the whole entire week, all the way up to before the fight. So take that for what it is. It's going to be around that $150, $160 range. It should be, unless the odds completely shoot up. So that's what I'm going to do, 100 to make 160 bucks. All right, so as I continue with the prelims, this is actually the last fight of the prelims. And then we're going to move on to the main pay-per-view card. We have Devontae Smith taking on Kama Worthy. Smith is the huge favorite at a minus 775, and Worthy is a pretty big underdog at a plus 459. I do like Smith, obviously, to win this fight. And not just the odds, but I've seen Smith fight before. He's a monster, he's a machine, he's a beast. So I think he's going to pretty much get it done. And this is the fight game. I am not putting up $775 to win 100 bucks. No way, no how. So I'm going to leave this one alone. Hopefully going to be an enjoyable fight, but I'm not going to bet, not going to come close to betting on this fight. All right, so moving on to the pay-per-view main card. Drumroll, please, drumroll. This is the first fight of that card. This is the 8th fight of the night. We have Derek Bronson taking on Ian Heinisch. Bronson's coming in as the underdog at a plus 140, and Heinisch is the favorite at a minus 160. I think that's a great odd, actually. I'm not going to take either fighter because I'm not going to lay 160 bucks to make 100 on Heinisch, but I do think that's a pretty fair odd, and you don't usually see that with these bookies in Vegas. You know, they come out with these odds that are a little crazy sometimes, but I for once think that's pretty fair. Even though Bronson does have some heavy hitting power and he can put the lights on in any second, Heinisch is very, very skilled, and he's got a lot of energy, and he's a younger fighter, and I think he's really hungry, and he's really eager to get his name recognized. So not enough confidence in either of those fighters, so I'm going to leave that one completely alone. 9th fight of the night, we have Gabriel Benitez versus Sadiq Youssef. Benitez is the somewhat heavy underdog at a plus 225, and Youssef is the favorite at a minus 265. Youssef is way too high, and I'm not too sure about Benitez. I think Benitez could get it done, but I'm still not willing to risk 100 bucks to make 225 with Benitez. Not that confident in either of these guys, so I'm going to leave that one completely alone. So working our way up, this is the 10th fight of the night, 3rd from last fight. Yoel Romero is back taking on Paulo Costa. I am interested in this fight. Romero is the favorite at a minus 155, and again, he opened up at a minus 155. I believe it went up since then. Kosta is the underdog at a plus 135, so it's not too far off. I kind of feel that it should have been closer to even fight, if you would have asked me, but it's not far off. It's almost even. Might as well be, but it could have been a little closer, like a minus 125 to a plus 105 or something in that area. But anyway, let's get into the breakdown of these fighters. Okay, so let's start off with Yoel Romero. He is 13-3 in his professional career, 8-2 in the UFC. He is 42 years old. I repeat, he is 42 years old. A lot of people like to forget that because if you just look at him, you're like, he's not 42. But he definitely is. I mean, 42, we're getting into the 40s. We're getting into the early and mid 40s. That's definitely, for most fighters, retirement age. So that just goes to show you, you're never too old, I guess. He's fighting out of ATT down in Florida. He's got a 73.5-inch reach. I will say, I guess one of the bad things is he's a very controversial fighter. Now, he seems like a cool guy. I've seen his interviews. He's been on the Joe Rogan podcast. He seems like a really fun, cool guy. But when it comes to the whole fight game and the whole fight business, very, very controversial. There were some rumors of tainted supplements. Now, when you look at him, you'd think he's on the juice anyway, but then it comes out that there were some tainted supplements, and I believe he was in some type of lawsuit battle and won some money off of one of the supplement companies that tainted his supplements. So I believe he got some money off of that, but even besides that, he did have a 9-month suspension for the last one, and it's been over that since he's been back in the octagon again. That was losing to Robert Whittaker. Even before that, though, guys, remember, I think it was Chris Weidman. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe he was fighting Chris Weidman, and there was something to do with dumping water on the octagon. It got on him, but then it spilled all over the place, and then there was a stool incident. We've seen him. Yoel Romero gets gassed, but he keeps going. He's like one of those steam engines. He just keeps going. But with all these controversial things, like the stool and the dumping the water, and he can't stand up. When the ref's telling you to stand up, you got to stand up. Not to say that he's not a great fighter, he is, but just a very controversial fighter. Again, he lost to Robert Whittaker. That was his last fight. I think it was definitely a stamina issue. He couldn't keep up. Robert Whittaker is on another level. So I think in this one, instead of getting too eager because he knows he can crack somebody and knock him out, he needs to control himself. He needs to reserve his power, reserve his stamina for the right, and pick the right shot. The right moment, he can blast anybody into outer space. So moving on to Paulo Henrique Kosta, 12-0 in his professional career, 4-0 in the UFC. He's doing a kick-ass job in the UFC, 4 wins in a row. He is 28 years old, so hell of a lot younger than Yoel Romero. That doesn't always dictate, obviously. I'm making a joke of it, but he is quite younger than Romero. He's got a 72-inch reach, so a little shorter than Romero, pretty much even at that point, only an inch and a half. He's coming off of a win to Uriah Hall. We all know Uriah Hall is a fighter to be reckoned with. Now, this was back in 2018 as well, so they're both over a year of not fighting. Quite a while. Octagon rust is real. That could be an issue for Kosta as well. But he, just like Romero, is a heavy KO guy. But this pick is in the detail. Kosta is a younger fighter. He's faster, and I think he has better stamina. Really, I mean, on paper, they're both pretty much even. They're basically the same fighter except for the whole age thing. And I think with that, Kosta has the advantage of speed, a better gas tank. So I'm going to take Kosta. I think he's going to win by KO. I think this is going to be Romero's last fight in the Octagon, and I have no idea how many more fights he has on his contract, but I'm that confident that he's going to retire Romero. $100 to make 135. Okay, so moving on. This is the co-main event. Wow, we're at the co-main event already. Anthony Pettis versus Nate Diaz. Pettis is the slight favorite at a minus 135, and Diaz is the underdog at a plus 115. I think that sounds about right too. That's right on, right where it should be anyway. I'm going to take a fighter in this one. Let's get right into it. Nate Diaz, let's start off with him. He's 34 years old from Stockton, California. Everybody knows he's from Stockton. He represents that all the time. 76-inch reach. He's coming off of a loss to Conor McGregor. Now, he has not fought in 3 years, almost 3 years. Last fight was Conor McGregor. Before that was Conor McGregor. So he beat him by submission the first time. If you guys forget, I know it's been a while. Then they fought again. He lost by decision, even though I think he probably maybe should have won that fight. Very, very close, but Conor squeezed through with the win. One thing I gotta say about Nate, jiu-jitsu skills are usually doesn't like to take it there unless the opportunity presents itself, but he's not really a let me take him down type of guy. But a lot of people have said over the years, maybe he should be, even though he's really entertaining and fun when he's standing up. Second degree black belt under Cesar Gracie. He's a jiu-jitsu phenomenon, and like I said, a lot of people are scratching their head over the years on why he doesn't take more people down and go to the mat. But he likes to stand up. He's a boxer. He's got a decent-sized reach, a hell of a longer reach than Pettis, and I'll get into Pettis in a second. But yeah, he's really about the fans. He's really about those money fights, just like his brother. He always has been. I don't think he's going to have much octagon rust, and I know this is going back against what I just said a little while ago about octagon rust is real. It is real for most people, most fighters, most of the time, but Nate Diaz is a different animal. I think he thrives off of that, fans wanting and calling his name and wanting him to get back into the octagon. Besides the jiu-jitsu, great boxing skills, I think his number one advantage is going to be his stamina. Jiu-jitsu and all, that's great. His stand-up, his boxing and all, great. But without the gas tank that he has, triathlon athletes, power swimmer, all this good stuff that helps him be the Nate Diaz that we know, and that we know his gas tank is not going to run out. Now let's move on to Anthony Pettis, another veteran fighter, 22-8 in his professional career, 16-7 in the UFC. He's 32 years old, fighting out of Rufus Sport, 72.5-inch reach. So in the stand-up department, I'd say boxing-wise, I'd have to give it to Nate. Obviously, Nate loves to box. Doesn't always put his hands up when he's supposed to. But he's a good boxer. He's a great boxer. Pettis is a good boxer too, but it's more about the kicks. It's more about the flash. We've seen him do it before. Coming out of that Taekwondo background, keeping that distance, I think is going to be better for him if he uses those legs and not his arms. Because, again, Nate has that 76-inch reach where Pettis only has a 72.5-inch reach. So I think he's going to have to stay with those low kicks, I can guarantee you Nate will not check them. So if he keeps with those low kicks, goes for the head once in a while, fakes him out, I think he's going to have a lot of success standing up. If he doesn't get too carried away with the flash and just keep focused, of course we all want to see an exciting fight, and Anthony Pettis wants to give an exciting fight, but if he stays focused and paces himself, I really think that he can get it done standing up. Try not to get taken down too much. I know Anthony Pettis is also a BJJ black belt, but I mean, you can't really compare the two on the mat. So I'm going to give this one to Pettis. I'm going to take Pettis. I think he's going to win by decision. And I'm going to put up $135 to make 100. Okay, so last fight of the night. This is fight number 12, the main event. Really excited about this one. Daniel Cormier is taking on Stipe Miocic. Cormier is coming in as the slight favorite at a -135, and Miocic is the underdog at a +115. That's exactly like the previous fight that we just went over, Anthony Pettis versus Nate Diaz, the exact same odds that they opened up with on Monday. Now, obviously, this is an exciting fight. Obviously, this is the main event. This would have been great for the show. Yes, but I decided after a lot of research and a lot of looking at history, previous fights, all the stuff that I usually do with these fights, I am not going to take either one of these. It's way too close for me. I have a little bit more of a feeling that Daniel Cormier has the advantage, but I feel like Stipe got a little short-handed when he was champ, and I really think he wants it back. If you go back to that first fight, you can see that Stipe was really handling Daniel Cormier basically from the size. Daniel didn't try to wrestle with him, and I know it ended fairly quickly, but Cormier did not try to wrestle with him. It's just way too hard to pick. You can see Daniel Cormier, he's so ruthless, and he doesn't want to lose, and he's got that champion mentality, that I don't want to lose mentality. No matter what. John Jones is the only guy that he actually lost to, and then before that, I believe it was John Jones again, but that was a no contest because of the whole controversy on that one. Stipe, though, I mean, this guy's a fighter in his other life. I mean, come on. So if that's not heart, I mean, I don't know what it is. So you got two strong, determined heavyweights going at it. Both have punching power. Obviously, you got to give the wrestling advantage to Daniel Cormier, but again, with Stipe's size, he's not one of those big heavyweights that's a goofball and he can't stand on his feet. He has some great agility, great punching power. If he takes Cormier down, it could be lights out for him, because once he starts going in with that ground and pound, Daniel Cormier can get rocked. So leave this one alone. I was going to do it, did all my research, but I decided against it. But I'm going to hopefully enjoy this fight as much as, if not more, than the first one. Okay, so that's going to do it on this audio-only edition of Picks with Rich. Again, let's quickly go over. I'm going to parlay Bermudez and Sanhanda. That's going to be $100 to make around 160. I'm going to take Paulo Kosta. That's going to be $100 to make 135. So hopefully that hits, because that's obviously more money than I'm risking. And then the last bet, I'm going to take Anthony Showtime Pettis, $135 to make 100. So that's going to do it, guys. Those are my picks for UFC 241. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Like this video if you found it useful or enjoyed it. And make sure you share and make sure you comment and do all that good stuff to support the channel. And as long as I'm winning, you're winning. And if we're winning, I'm going to continue to do Picks with Rich. So until next time, I'm Rant'N Rich signing out from sunny SoCal. I'm out of here. Laters.